Now let's talk about another linguistic hypothesis, very romantic one. In conjecturing the existence of a Proto-Indo-European language, people were taking the existing languages and finding the similarities, packing them together, and recognizing how alike they were. So, in 1903, a Danish linguist named Holger Pedersen proposed a language he called Nostratian, and two Russians ran with the ball in the 1960s named Vladislav Ilyich Svitich and Aharon Dolgopolsky. And they went forward with the Nostratic hypothesis, i.e. the hypothesis that there is one common language for all the languages of the Eurasian landmass, including ours. So that, in other words, takes the same methodology of a Proto-European language back many thousands of years more and saying there was one in common. Now, this has been greeted with a lot of doubt. But if we put it together with the recent researches on the populationizing, on how Eurasian landmass was populated, maybe it makes sense. Because they're now saying that around 75,000 years ago, we came out of Africa. If you say to anybody, where are your folks from? Where is your family from? Oh, Ireland, Germany, Norway. Yeah, but what about 75,000 years ago? 75,000 years ago, basically, we were all in Africa. And apparently, the Exodus, the Great Trek, was a very small group, referred to as a genetic bottleneck, because the genetic similarity among Europeans and among Asiatics is, 99.9 or something like that. Whereas there's great genetic variation among the fully human persons left behind in Africa. So, what they've mapped is a trek out of the Horn of Ethiopia, across the the lower end of the Red Sea, which at that time will have been dry because of the glaciations, and around into India. And that's how we got to India. But of course, most of Europe was much too icy at the time. Anyway, all of this is extremely interesting to follow, but the Nostratic hypothesis that there was one language from which all of this came may yet find some justification in tandem with the genetic tracking of the movement out of Africa and around the Indian Ocean. So this is, it's all in Wikipedia. I have a friend, Jason Scott, who compares Wikipedia to a casino. And when you go to a casino, the atmosphere is very calm and quiet. There's the clinking of the chips and the soft music. And you don't see the security systems in the jails. Every casino has a jail. And the Wikipedia, what goes on behind the scenes at Wikipedia is this appalling slash and burn fighting over what goes in and what goes out. Arguments among different kinds of editors. And he says, don't expect articles on Wikipedia to get better. But even so, I've heard Dawkins say, it's a miracle. So there you are. It's a miracle that won't get better. Now, how keep track of all of this stuff? simple note-taking won't do it because of all the cross-connections you have to keep track of. And that is one of the reasons that Xanadu structure always seemed to me the most straightforward structure. Now you see, there are two approaches to a computer problem. One is to say, what is the real problem and how should we really handle it? And that way lies madness. And the other is to say, let's just throw in some stuff we've got lying around. No one will notice the shortcomings. And that's how we got most of what we have now. So, I went the way that lies to madness. But the point is, from my point of view, to do the things that electronic documents should do. What they did was they imitated paper. Like they imitated paper under glass, because you can't annotate. Whereas, when I was 14 and learning to write, the shortcomings of paper drove me out of my mind. I guess there are two reactions you can have. If somebody shows you software that you don't understand, laymen will say, oh, I don't understand technology. Whereas I will say, those sons of bitches. And similarly, when it comes to dealing with problems of shortcomings of paper, most people say, oh, I'm not a good writer. I say, no, this is the problem. The problem is not me, the problem is paper. Now, for example, when I was 14 and learned to write, by that I mean learning to write big papers. In high school I wrote 5 or 6 papers that ran over 60 pages, I think. And it's a problem I have, which is that I want to say too much. But at the same time, the issue is clear-cut. It's that there is no determinate order in which to say things. Writing is a process of taking lots of items, attempting to array them in a reasonable way, and making micro-transitions among them. Then changing it. And that is the process that used to be called cut and paste. Now, it's no secret that I don't like Xerox PARC very much. I believe it all went wrong at Xerox PARC. But what I find most atrocious about Xerox PARC is what they did to those holy words, cut and paste. I still do real cut and paste in my writings. Here, this is the manuscript for the talk I'm giving right now, where I printed out one version, cut it up, and I use staples, but that's a 20th century variation. The point is that deep rearrangement is required.